Previously on Something Fresh.
Who is Freddie? Do you ask? Freddie's my fiance, George, my betrothed, my steady, the young man that I am going to marry.
Curious how you cling to that Freddy idea.
Against the pale gray sky, Blanding's castle stood out like a mountain. It dominated the surrounding country.
I want results, and I want them quick. The thing isn't even in a glass case. It's lying on an open tray on top of a cabinet of Roman coins. Anybody who is left alone for 2 minutes in the place could take it.
Taking a look at our little collection, Mr. Peters, you will see that we have given the place of honor to your Cheops.
Was I dreaming, or did I really meet you in the hall this morning at about 20 minutes after 2?
You did.
And did you really tell me that you would come to the castle to steal...
Recover?
Recover, Mr. Peter Scarab?
I did.
It is worthy of record, in light of the after events, that at the beginning of their visit, it was the general opinion of the guests gathered together at Blanding's castle that the place was dull. The house party had an air of torpor, which one sees in the saloon passengers of an Atlantic liner. That appearance of resignation to an enforced idleness and a monotony to be broken only by meals. Lord Emsworth's guests gave the impression, collectively, of being just about to yawn and look at their watches. This was partly the fault of the time of year, for most house parties are dull if they happen to fall between the hunting and the shooting seasons, but must be attributed chiefly to Lord Emsworth's extremely sketchy notions of the duties of a host. Lord Emsworth belonged to the people who like to be left alone to amuse themselves when they come to a place school of hosts. He pottered about the garden in an old coat, now uprooting a weed, now wrangling with the autocrat from Scotland who was theoretically in his service as head gardener, dreamily satisfied, when he thought of them at all, that his guests were as perfectly happy as he was. However, in a rebuke of Lord Emsworth's view that Blanding's castle was an earthier, muddy sort of heaven on earth, the favorite amusement of most of the guests was strolling about the terraces with such of their relations as they happened to be on speaking terms with at the moment, and abuse their host and the rest of their relations. After breakfast, on a morning 10 days after Joan and Ash had formed their compact, the terraces were full of perambulating couples. Here, Colonel Horace Mant, talking with the Bishop of Godalming, was soothing that dignitary by clothing in soldierly words thoughts that the latter had not been able to crush down, but which his holy office scarcely permitted him to utter. Farther on, stepping occasionally to gesticulate, could be seen other Emsworth relations and connections. It was a typical scene of quiet, peaceful English family life, decidedly dull to those familiar with life at paces above a steady tread.
I was wondering when you were going to admit it.
Admit what?
That you can't stand the prospect. That the idea of being stuck for life with this crowd, like a fly on flypaper, is too much for you. That you are ready to break off your engagement to Freddie and come away and marry me and live happily ever after.
George!
Well, wasn't that what it meant? Be honest.
What meant?
That sigh.
I didn't sigh. I was just breathing.
Then you can breathe in this atmosphere. You surprised me. Look at them. Look at them, crawling round like doped beetles. My dear girl, it's no use your pretending that this sort of thing wouldn't kill you. You're pining away already. You're thinner and paler since you came here. Gee, how we shall look back at this and thank our stars that we're out of it when we're back in old New York, with the elevated rattling and the streetcars squealing over the points and something doing every step you take. I shall call you on the phone from the office and have you meet me downtown somewhere. And we'll have a bite to eat and go to some show and a bit of supper afterward and a dance or two, and then go home to our cozy...
George! You mustn't. Really.
Why mustn't I?
It's wrong. You can't talk like that when we're both enjoying the hospitality of the people.
Nearly such children as Emsworth is now. If that girl isn't in love with Emerson, I'll eat my hat.
No, surely not, Horace. What were you saying when you broke off?
I was saying that if a man wanted his relations never to speak to each other again for the rest of their lives, the best thing he could do would be to herd them all together in a dashed barrack of a house 100 miles from anywhere, and then go off and spend all his time prodding dashed flower beds with a spud. Dash it!
Just so. So you were. Go on, Horace. I find a curious comfort in your words.
Thought of. And you're beginning.
There goes Father. How fast he's walking. George, have you noticed a sort of difference in Father these last few days?
I haven't. My specialty is keeping an eye on the rest of the Peters family.
He seems better somehow. He seems to have almost stopped smoking. And I'm very glad, for those cigars were awfully bad for him. The doctor expressly told him he must stop them, but he wouldn't pay any attention to them. And he seems to take so much more exercise. My bedroom is next to his, and every morning I can hear things going on through the wall, Father dancing about and puffing a good deal. And one morning I met his valet going in with a pair of Indian clubs. Father is really taking himself in hand at last.
And about time, too. How much longer are you to go on starving yourself to death just to give him the resolution to stick to his dieting? It maddens me to see you at dinner. And it's killing you. You're getting pale and thin. You can't go on like this.
I do get a little hungry sometimes, late at night, generally.
You want somebody to take care of you and look after you. I'm the man. You may think you can fool me, but I can tell. You're weakening on this Freddie proposition. You're beginning to see that it won't do. One of these days, you're going to come to me and say, George, you were right. I take the count. Me for the quiet sneak to the station, without anybody knowing, and the break for London, and the wedding at the registrar's. Oh, I know. I couldn't have loved you all this time and not know. You're weakening.
I'm not weakening at all. You take too much for granted.
You are beginning to see that it is impossible, this Freddie foolishness.
It's not foolishness, and I wish you wouldn't call him Freddie.
He asked me to.
Well, never mind. Please don't do it.
Very well, little girl. I wouldn't do anything to hurt you.
The efficient Baxter bicycled broodingly to Market Blandings for tobacco. He brooded for several reasons. He had just seen Aline Peters and George Emerson in confidential talk on the upper terrace, and that was one thing which exercised his mind, for he suspected George Emerson. He suspected him nebulously as a snake in the grass, as an influence working against the orderly progress of events concerning the marriage that had been arranged and would shortly take place between Miss Peters and the Honorable Frederick Threepwood. He blamed the Honorable Freddie. If the Honorable Freddie had been a more ardent lover, he would have spent his time with Aline, and George Emerson would have taken his proper place as one of the crowd at the back of the stage. But Freddie's view of the matter seemed to be that he had done all that could be expected of a chappie in getting engaged to the girl, and now he might consider himself at liberty to drop her for a while. So Baxter, as he bicycled to Market Blandings for tobacco, brooded on Freddie, Aline Peters, and George Emerson. He also brooded on Mr. Peters and Ash Marson. Finally, he brooded in a general way because he had had very little sleep the past week. The spectacle of a young man doing his duty and enduring considerable discomforts while doing it is painful, but there is such uplift in it. It affords so excellent a moral picture that I cannot omit a short description of the manner in which Rupert Baxter had spent the nights which had elapsed since his meeting with Ash in the small hours in the hall. In the gallery which ran above the hall, there was a large chair, situated a few paces from the great staircase. On this, in an overcoat, for the nights were chilly, and rubber-soled shoes the efficient Baxter had sat, without missing a single night, from 1 in the morning until daybreak, waiting, waiting, waiting. It had been an ordeal to try the stoutest determination. Nature had never intended Baxter for a night bird. He loved his bed. He knew that doctors held that insufficient sleep made a man pale and sallow, and he had always aimed at the peach bloom complexion, which comes from a sensible 8 hours between the sheets. One of the King Georges of England, I forget which one, once said that a certain number of hours' sleep each night, I cannot recall at the moment how many, made a man something, which for the time being has slipped my memory. Baxter agreed with him. It went against his instincts to sit up in this fashion, but it was his duty, and he did it. Baxter's destination was the public alehouse, the Emsworth Arms, not the busy bar full to overflowing with honest British yeomen, many of them in a similar condition. No, his goal was the genteel dining room on the first floor, where a bald and shuffling waiter, cousin to a tortoise, served luncheon to those desiring it. Lack of sleep had reduced Baxter to a condition where the presence and chatter of the house party were insupportable. It was his purpose to lunch at Emsworth Arms and take a nap in an armchair afterward. He had relied on having the room to himself, for Market Blandings did not lunch to a great extent. But to his annoyance and disappointment, the room was already occupied by a man in brown tweeds.
Morning. Nice day. Good for the farmers. I'll move up to your end of the table if I may, sir. Waiter, bring my beef to this gentleman's end of the table. Infernally quiet place this, sir. I haven't found a soul to speak to since I arrived yesterday afternoon, except deaf and dumb rustics. Are you making a long stay here?
I live outside the town.
I pity you. Wouldn't care to do it myself. Had to come here on business and shan't be sorry when it's finished. I give you my word, I couldn't sleep a wink last night because of the quiet. I was just dropping off when a beast of a bird outside the window gave a chirp, and it brought me up with a jerk as though somebody had fired a gun. There's a damn cat somewhere near my room that mews. I lie in bed waiting for the next mew, all worked up. Heaven save me from the country. It may be all right for you if you've got a comfortable home and a pal or two to chat with after dinner, but you've no conception what it's like in this infernal town. I suppose it calls itself a town. What a hole. There's a church down the street. I'm told it's Norman or something. Anyways, it's old. I'm not much of a fan for churches as a rule, but I went and took a look at it. Then somebody told me there was a fine view from the end of High Street, so I went and took a look at that. And now, so far as I can make out, I've done the sights and exhausted every possibility of entertainment this town has to provide. Unless there's another church. So I'm so reduced that I'll go and see the Methodist chapel if there is one.
Uh-huh.
What do people do with themselves in a place like this? When they want amusement, I mean. I suppose it's different if you've been brought up to it, like being born colorblind or something. You don't notice. It's the visitor who suffers. They've no enterprise in this sort of place. There's a bit of land just outside here that would make a sweet steeplechase course. Natural barriers, everything. It hasn't occurred to them to do anything with it. It makes you despair of your species, that sort of thing. Now, if I... Hello, Freddie.
Eh?
Yes?
What did you say?
I was speaking of this other...
I thought you said, hello, Freddie.
I thought you were dropping off when I looked at you. You've been dreaming. What should I say hello, Freddie, for?
The conundrum was unanswerable. Baxter did not attempt to answer it, but there remained at the back of his mind a quaint idea that he had caught sight as he woke of the Honorable Frederick Threepwood, his face warningly contorted, vanishing through a doorway. Yet what could the Honorable Freddie be doing at the Emsworth Arms? A solution of the difficulty occurred to him. He had dreamed he had seen Freddie, and that had suggested the words which reason pointed out his companion could hardly have spoken. Yes, that must be the explanation. After all, the quaintest things happened in dreams. Last night, when he had fallen asleep in his chair, he had dreamed that he was sitting in a glass case in the museum, making faces at Lord Emsworth, Mr. Peters, and Beach the butler, who were trying to steal him, under the impression that he was a scarab of the reign of Cheops of the Fourth Dynasty, something he could never have done when awake. Yes, he must certainly have been dreaming. In the bedroom into which he had dashed to hide himself on discovering that the dining room was in possession of the efficient Baxter, the Honorable Freddie sat on a rickety chair, scowling.
You can't take a step anywhere without stumbling over that damn feller, Baxter.
In a different bedroom, unobserved by the efficient Baxter, a scene he would never believe.
Put the butter or drippings in a kettle on the range, and when hot, add the onions and fry them. Add the veal and cook until brown. Add the water, cover closely, and cook very, very slowly until the meat is tender. Then add the seasoning and place the potatoes on top of the meat. Cover and cook until the potatoes are tender, but not falling to pieces.
Sure, not falling to pieces, that's right. Go on.
Then add the cream and cook 5 minutes longer.
Is that all?
That's all of that one.
Read me the piece where it tells about curried lobster.
Curried lobster. Materials: 2 1-pound lobsters, 2 teaspoonfuls lemon juice, half a spoonful curry powder, 2 tablespoonfuls butter, a tablespoonful flour, 1 cupful scalded milk, 1 cupful cracker crumbs, half teaspoonful salt, quarter teaspoonful pepper.
Go on.
Way of preparing: cream the butter and flour and add the scalded milk. Then add the lemon juice, curry powder, salt, and pepper. Remove the lobster meat from the shells and cut into half-inch cubes.
Half-inch cubes. Yes.
Add the latter to the sauce.
You didn't say anything about the latter. Oh, I see. It means the half-inch cubes, yes?
Refill the lobster shells, cover with the buttered crumbs, and bake until the crumbs are brown. This will serve 6 persons.
And make them feel an hour afterward as though they had swallowed a live wildcat.
Not necessarily. I could eat 2 portions of that at this very minute and go off to bed and sleep like a little child.
You're a wonder. You're fresh and you have no respect for your elders and betters, but you deliver the goods. That's the point. Why, I'm beginning to feel great. Say, do you know, I felt a new muscle in the small of my back this morning? They were coming out on me like a rash.
That's the Larson exercises. They develop the whole body.
Well, you're a pretty good advertisement for them if they need one. What were you before you came to me? A prize fighter?
That's the question everybody I have met since I arrived here has asked me. I believe it made the butler think I was some sort of crook when I couldn't answer it. I used to write stories. Detective stories.
What you ought to be doing is running a health spa over here in England, like Muldoon has back home. But you'll be able to write one more story out of this business here if you want to. When are you going to have another try for my scarab?
Tonight.
Tonight? How about Baxter?
I shall have to risk Baxter.
See here, I've been thinking this over lately, and what's the use? It's a queer thing, and if anybody had told me a week ago that I should be saying it, I wouldn't have believed him. But I'm beginning to like you. I don't want to get you into trouble. Let the old scarab go. What's a scarab anyway? Forget about it and stick on here as my private Muldoon. If it's the 50,000 that's worrying you, forget that too. I'll give it to you as your fee.
I wouldn't think of it. It's great of you to suggest such a thing, but I know just how you feel about the thing, and I'm going to get it for you if I have to wring Baxter's neck. Probably Baxter will have given up waiting as a bad job by now if he has been watching all this while. We've given him 10 nights to cool off. I suspect he is in bed, dreaming pleasant dreams. It's nearly 2 o'clock. I'll wait another 10 minutes, then go down. Lie back and make yourself comfortable, and I'll read you to sleep.
You're a good boy.
Are you ready? Pork tenderloin larded. Half-pound fat pork. 4 large pork tenderloins. 1 cupful cracker crumbs. 1 cupful boiling water. 2 tablespoonfuls butter. 1 teaspoonful salt. Half teaspoonful pepper. 1 teaspoonful poultry seasoning.
Oh,
Way of preparing. Wipe the tenderloins with a damp cloth. With a sharp knife, make a deep pocket lengthwise in each tenderloin.
George Emerson was troubled about Aline Peters. Watching over her as he did with a lover's eye, he had perceived that about her which distressed him. On the terrace that morning, she had been abrupt to him. What, in a girl of less angelic disposition, one might have called snappy. Yes, to be just, she had snapped at him. That meant something. It meant that Aline was not well. It meant what her pallor and tired eyes meant, that the life she was leading was doing her no good. 11 nights had George dined at Blandings Castle, and on each of the 11 nights he had been distressed to see the manner in which Aline, declining the baked meats, had restricted herself to the miserable vegetable messes which were all that doctor's orders permitted to her suffering father. George's pity had its limits. His heart did not bleed for Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters' diet was his own affair. But such was the overflowing goodness of Aline's heart that not even he could persuade her to withdraw her moral support from her father and devote herself to keeping up her strength as she should do. It was necessary to think of some other plan. And then a speech of hers had come back to him. She had said, poor child,
I do get a little hungry sometimes, late at night generally.
the problem was solved. Food should be brought to her late at night. On the table by his bed was a stout sheet of packaging paper. On this lay, like one of those pictures in still life that one sees on suburban parlor walls, a tongue, some bread, a knife, a fork, salt, a corkscrew, and a small bottle of white wine. It only remained now to allow time to pass until the hour should be sufficiently advanced to ensure safety for the expedition. He looked at his watch again. It was nearly 2. By this time, the house must be asleep. He gathered up the tongue, the bread, the knife, the fork, the salt, the corkscrew, and the bottle of white wine, and left the room. All was still. He stole downstairs. On his chair in the gallery that ran round the hall, swathed in an overcoat and wearing rubber-soled shoes, was the efficient Baxter, who sat and gazed into the darkness. He had lost the first fine, careless rapture, as it were, which had helped him to endure these vigils, and a great weariness was on him. He found difficulty in keeping his eyes open. He blamed the fat man at the inn for this. If the fat man had not thrust his presence and conversation on him, he would have been able to enjoy a sound sleep in the afternoon. He began to muse on the fat man, and by a curious coincidence, whom should he meet a few moments later but this same man? Baxter was climbing up the outer wall of Westminster Abbey in his pajamas and a tall hat, when the fat man, suddenly thrusting his head out of a window, which Baxter had not noticed until that moment, said, "Hello, Freddie." Baxter was about to explain that his name was not Freddie when he found himself walking down Piccadilly with Ash Marson. Ash said to him, "Nobody loves me. Everybody steals my grapefruit." And the pathos of it cut the efficient Baxter like a knife. He was on the point of replying when Ash vanished and Baxter discovered that he was not in Piccadilly, as he had supposed, but in an aeroplane with Mr. Peters hovering over the castle. Mr. Peters had a bomb in his hand, which he was fondling with loving care. He explained to Baxter that he had stolen it from the Earl of Emsworth's museum. I did it with a slice of cold beef and a pickle, he explained. And Baxter found himself realizing that that was the only way. Now watch me drop it, said Mr. Peters, closing one eye and taking aim at the castle. Coming down to first causes, the only reason why collisions of any kind occur is because two bodies defy nature's law that a given spot on a given plane shall at a given moment of time be occupied by only one body. There was a certain spot near the foot of the great staircase, which Ash, coming downstairs from Mr. Peters' room, and George Emerson, coming up to Aline's room, had to pass on their respective routes. George reached it at 1 minute and 3 seconds after 2 a.m., moving silently but swiftly, and Ash, also maintaining a good rate of speed, arrived there at 1 minute and 4 seconds after the hour, when he ceased to walk and began to fly, accompanied by George Emerson, now going down.
Get off me! Let go! Damn!
Who is there? Speak.
I think you've killed him, Clarence.
Switch on those dashing lights. Why doesn't somebody dash it?
Turn on the light.
What's going
on? Clarence! Open that door there. Open that door. Look and see what the matter is.
Ash opened the door. Since his escape from the hall, he had been lurking in the neighborhood of the green baize door and had been engulfed by the swirling throng. Finding himself with elbow room for the first time, he pushed through, swung the door open, and switched on the lights. They shone on a collection of semi-dressed figures crowding the staircase, on a hall littered with china and glass, on a dented dinner gong, on an edited and improved portrait of the late Countess of Emsworth, and on the efficient Baxter in an overcoat and rubber-soled shoes, lying beside a cold tongue. At no great distance lay a number of other objects, a knife, a fork, some bread, salt, a corkscrew, and a bottle of white wine.
Baxter, my dear fellow, what the devil? My dear Baxter, if your hunger is so great that you are unable to wait for breakfast and have to raid my larder in the middle of the night, I wish to goodness you would contrive to make less noise about it. I do not grudge you the food. Help yourself when you please. But do remember that people who have not such keen appetites as yourself like to sleep during the night. A far better plan, my dear fellow, would be to have sandwiches or buns or whatever you consider most sustaining sent up to your bedroom.
My lord, I have no idea. What is burglar scarab? My...
Pray do not apologize, Baxter. The desire for food is human. It is your boisterous mode of securing and conveying it that I deprecate. Let us all go to bed.
But Lord Emsworth...
To bed.
Greedy pig, stuffing himself at all hours.
Don't tell me that young fellow's all there, because I know better. Have you noticed his eye? Furtive, shifty, nasty gleam in it. Besides, dash it, did you happen to take a look at the hall last night after he had been there? It was in ruins, my dear sir. Absolute dashed ruins. It was positively littered with broken china and tables that had been bowled over. Don't tell me that was just an accidental collision in the dark. My dear sir, that man must have been thrashing about, absolutely thrashing about, like a dashed salmon on a dashed hook. He must have had a paroxysm of some kind of a dashed fit. A doctor could give you a name for it. It's a well-known form of insanity. Paranoia, isn't that what they call it? Rush of blood to the head, followed by a general running amok. I've heard fellows who've been in India talk of it. Natives get it, don't know what they're doing, charge through the streets, taking cracks at people with dashed, whacking great knives. Same with this young man, probably in a modified form at present. He ought to be in a home. One of these nights, if this grows on him, he'll be massacring Emsworth in his bed.
My dear Horace.
Take my word for it, though, mind you, I don't say they aren't well suited. Everyone knows that Emsworth has been, to all practical intents and purposes, a dashed lunatic for years. What was it that young fellow Emerson, Freddie's American friend, was saying the other day about some acquaintance of his who was not quite right in the head? Nobody in the house, is that it? Something to that effect, at any rate. I felt at the time it was a perfect description of Emsworth.
My dear Horace, your father-in-law, the head of the family.
A dashed lunatic, my dear sir. Head of the family or no head of the family. A man as absent-minded as he is has no right to call himself sane. Nobody in the house, I recollect it now. Nobody in the house except gas, and that has not been turned on. That's Emsworth.
Just so, my dear fellow. I quite understand. All I can say is if you do require additional food in the night, let one of the servants bring it to your room before bedtime. Then there will be no danger of these disturbances. There's no possible objection to your eating 100 meals a day, my good Baxter, provided you do not rouse the whole house over them. Some of us like to sleep during the night.
But Lord Emsworth, I've just explained. It was not. I was not.
Never mind, my dear fellow, never mind. Why make such an important thing of it? Many people like a light snack before actually retiring. Doctors, I believe, sometimes recommend it. Tell me, Baxter, how do you think the museum looks now? A little brighter? Better for the dash of color? I think so. Museums are generally such gloomy places.
Lord Emsworth, may I explain once again?
My dear Baxter, I have told you that there is nothing to explain. You're getting a little tedious. What a deep, rich red this is, and how clean new paint smells. You know, Baxter, I've been longing to mess about with paint ever since I was a boy. I recollect my old father beating me with a walking stick. Oh, that would be before your time, of course. By the way, if you see Freddie, will you tell him I want to speak to him? He probably is in the smoking room. Send him to me here.
You have done wonders. You have cleared the way for me. That is my idea of real teamwork. I'm so glad now that we formed our partnership. It would have been too bad if I got all the advantage of your work and had jumped in and deprived you of the reward. As it is, I shall go down and finish the thing off tonight with a clear conscience.
You can't mean that you dream of going down to the museum tonight.
Of course I do.
But it's madness.
On the contrary, tonight is the one night where there ought to be no risk at all.
After what happened last night?
Because of what happened last night. Do you imagine Mr. Baxter will dare to stir from his bed after that? If ever there was a chance of getting this thing finished, it will be tonight.
You're quite right. I never looked at it that way. Baxter wouldn't risk a second disaster. I'll certainly make a success of it this time.
I don't quite understand you, Mr. Marston. Do you propose to try to get the scarab tonight?
Yes, it will be as easy as...
Are you forgetting that, by the terms of our agreement, it is my turn?
You surely don't intend to hold me to that.
Certainly I do.
But good heavens, consider my position. Do you seriously expect me to lie in bed while you do all the work, and then to take half share in the reward?
I do.
It's ridiculous.
It's no more ridiculous than that I should do the same. Mr. Marston, there is no use in our going over all this again. We settled it long ago.
Breakfast at Blanding's Castle was an informal meal. There was food and drink in the long dining hall for such as were energetic enough to come down and get it, but the majority of the house party breakfasted in their rooms. When, therefore, Baxter, yielding to nature and exhaustion, slept through breakfast, nobody came to rouse him. He did not ring his bell, so he was not disturbed, and he slept on until 11:30. By which time, it being Sunday morning, and the house party including one bishop and several of the minor clergy, most of the occupants of the place had gone off to church. Baxter shaved and dressed hastily, for he was in a state of nervous apprehension. He blamed himself for having lain in bed so long. When every minute he was away might mean the loss of the scarab, he had passed several hours in dreamy sloth. He had awakened with a presentiment. Something told him the scarab had been stolen in the night, and he wished now that he had risked all and kept guard. The house was very quiet as he made his way rapidly to the hall. The hall had that Sunday morning air of wanting to be left to itself and disapproving of the entry of anything human until lunchtime, which can be felt only by a guest in a large house who remains at home when his fellows have gone to church. The portraits on the walls, especially the one of the Countess of Emsworth in the character of Venus rising from the sea, stared at Baxter as he entered with cold reproof. The very chairs seemed distant and unfriendly, but Baxter was in no mood to appreciate their attitude. His conscience slept. His mind was occupied, to the exclusion of all other things, by the scarab and its probable fate. How disastrously remiss it had been of him not to keep guard last night. Long before he opened the museum door, he was feeling the absolute certainty that the worst had happened. It had. The card which announced that here was an Egyptian scarab of the reign of Cheops of the Fourth Dynasty, presented by J. Preston Peters, Esquire, still lay on the cabinet in its wonted place, but now its neat lettering was false and misleading. The scarab was gone. For all he had expected this, for all his premonition of disaster, it was an appreciable time before the efficient Baxter rallied from the blow. He stood transfixed, goggling at the empty place. Then his mind resumed its functions. All he perceived was not yet lost. Baxter the watchdog must retire to be succeeded by Baxter the sleuth hound. He had been unable to prevent the theft of the scarab, but he might still detect the thief. For the Dr. Watsons of this world, as opposed to the Sherlock Holmeses, success in the province of detective work must always be, to a very large extent, the result of luck. Sherlock Holmes can extract a clue from a wisp of straw or a flake of cigar ash, but Dr. Watson has to have it taken out for him and dusted and exhibited clearly with a label attached. The average man is a Dr. Watson. We are wont to scoff at a patronizing manner at the humble follower of the great investigator, but as a matter of fact, we should have been just as dull ourselves. We should not even have risen to the modest height of a Scotland Yard bungler. Baxter was a Dr. Watson. What he wanted was a clue, but it is so hard for the novice to tell what is a clue and what is not. And then he happened to look down, and there on the floor was a clue that nobody could have overlooked. Baxter saw it, but did not immediately recognize it for what it was. What he saw at first was not a clue, but just a mess. He had been a tidy soul and abhorred messes, and this was a particularly messy mess. A considerable portion of the floor was a sea of red paint. The can from which it had flowed was lying on its side near the wall. He had noticed that the smell of paint had seemed particularly pungent, but had attributed this to the new freshet of energy on the part of Lord Emsworth. He had not perceived that paint had been spilled.
Pa.
Then, suddenly, beneath the disguise of the mess, he saw the clue, a footmark, no less, a crimson footmark on the polished wood. It was as clear and distinct as though it had been left there for the purpose of assisting him. It was a feminine footmark, the print of a slim and pointed shoe. This perplexed Baxter. He had looked on the siege of the scarab as an exclusively male affair, but he was not perplexed long. What could be simpler than that Mr. Peters should have enlisted female aid? The female of the species is more deadly than the male. Probably she makes a better purloiner of scarabs. At any rate, there the footprint was unmistakably feminine. Inspiration came to him. Aline Peters had a maid. What more likely than that secretly she should be a hireling of Mr. Peters, on whom he had now come to look as a man of the blackest and most sinister character. Mr. Peters was a collector, and when a collector makes up his mind to secure a treasure, he employs, Baxter knew, every possible means to that end. Baxter was now in a state of great excitement. He was hot on the scent, and his brain was working like a buzzsaw in an icebox. According to his reasoning, if Aline Peters' maid had done this thing, there should be red paint in the hall marking her retreat, and possibly a faint stain on the stairs leading to the servants' bedrooms. He hastened from the museum and subjected the hall to keen scrutiny. Yes, there was red paint on the carpet. He passed through the green baize door and examined the stairs. On the bottom step there was a faint but conclusive stain of crimson. He was wondering how best to follow up this clue when he perceived Ash coming down the stairs. Ash, like Baxter, and as a result of a night disturbed by anxious thoughts, had also overslept himself. There are moments when the giddy excitement of being right on the trail causes the amateur, or Watsonian, detective to be incautious. If Baxter had been wise, he would have achieved his object, the getting a glimpse of Joan's shoes, by a devious and snaky route. As it was, zeal getting the better of prudence, he rushed straight on. His early suspicion of Ash had been temporarily obscured. Whatever Ash's claim to be a suspect, it had not been his footprint Baxter had seen in the museum.
Here, you.
Sir?
The shoes.
I beg your pardon.
I wish to see the servants' shoes. Where are they?
I expect they have them on, sir.
Yesterday's shoes, man. Yesterday's shoes. Where are they?
Where are the shoes of yesteryear? I should say at a venture, sir, that they would be in a large basket somewhere near the kitchen. Our genial knife and shoe boy collects them, I believe, at early dawn.
Would they have been cleaned yet?
If I know the lad, sir, no.
Go and bring that basket to me. Bring it to me in this room.
We have here, sir, a fair selection of our various foot coverings.
You did not drop any on your way.
Not one, sir.
those back.
That's the lot, sir.
Now come with me. Leave the basket there. You can carry it back when you return.
Shall I put back that shoe, sir?
Certainly not. I shall take this one with me.
Shall I carry it for you, sir?
Oh, yes, I think that would be best. Come with me.
Baxter left the room. Ash followed him. In the garden, Lord Emsworth, garden fork in hand, was dealing summarily with a young green weed that had incautiously shown its head in the middle of a flower bed. He listened to Baxter's statement with more interest than he usually showed in anybody's statements. He resented the loss of the scarab, not so much on account of its intrinsic worth as because it had been a gift of his friend Mr. Peters.
Indeed, really? Oh, dear me, it certainly seems is extremely suggestive. You are certain there was red paint on this shoe?
I have it with me. I brought it on purpose to show you. The shoe.
Ah, now let me look at it. This, you say, is the... Just so. My dear Baxter, it may be that I have not examined this shoe with sufficient care, but can you point out to me exactly where this red paint is that you speak of?
There was paint on the shoe. I tell you, there was a splash of red paint across the toe. This man here will bear me out in this. You saw paint on the shoe.
Paint, sir.
What? Do you mean to tell me you did not see it?
No, sir. There was no paint on this shoe.
This is ridiculous. I saw it with my own eyes. It was a broad splash right across the toe.
You must have made a mistake, my dear Baxter. There is certainly no trace of paint on this shoe. These momentary optical delusions are, I fancy, not uncommon. Any doctor will tell you.
I had an aunt, your lordship, who was remarkably subject to...
It's absurd. I cannot have been mistaken. I am positively certain the toe of this shoe was red when I found it.
It is quite black now, my dear Baxter.
A sort of chameleon shoe.
What did you say?
Nothing, sir.
I strongly suspect you of having had something to do with this.
Really, Baxter, that is surely the least probable of solutions. The young man could hardly have cleaned the shoe on his way from the house. A few days ago, when painting in the museum, I inadvertently splashed some paint on my own shoe. I can assure you it does not brush off. It needs a very systematic cleaning before all traces are removed.
Exactly, your lordship. My theory, if I may...
Yes?
My theory, your lordship, is that Mr. Baxter was deceived by the light and shade effects on the toe of the shoe. The morning sun, streaming in through the window, must have shone on the shoe in such a manner as to give it a momentary and fictitious aspect of redness. If Mr. Baxter recollects, he did not look long at the shoe. The picture on the retina of the eye consequently had no time to fade. I myself remember thinking at the moment that the shoe appeared to have a certain reddish tint. The mistake that one
Bah.
It seems to me, my dear fellow, the only explanation will square with the facts. A shoe that is really smeared with red paint does not become black of itself in the course of a few minutes.
You are very right, your lordship. May I go now, your lordship?
Oh, certainly. Certainly, by all means.
Shall I take the shoe with me, your lordship?
If you do not want it, Baxter.
The secretary passed the fraudulent piece of evidence to Ash without a word, and the latter, having included both gentlemen in a kindly smile, left the garden. On returning to the butler's room, Ash's first act was to remove a shoe from the top of the pile in the basket. He was about to leave the room with it when the sound of footsteps in the passage outside halted him.
I do not in the least understand why you wish me to come here, my dear Baxter, and you are completely spoiling my morning. But, oh well.
For a moment, Ash was at a loss. It was a crisis that called for swift action, and it was a little hard to know exactly what to do. It had been his intention to carry the paint-splashed shoe back to his own room, there to clean it at his leisure. But it appeared that his strategic line of retreat was blocked. The window was open. Ash looked out. There were bushes below. It was a makeshift policy, and one which did not commend itself to him as the ideal method. But it seemed the only thing to be done, for already the footsteps had reached the door. He threw the shoe out of a window, and it sank beneath the friendly surface of the long grass round a wisteria bush.
I wish to look at those shoes again.
Certainly, sir.
I can manage without your assistance.
Very good, sir.
Don't stand there staring at me.
I was interested in what you were doing, sir.
Never mind. Don't stare at me in that idiotic way.
May I read a book, sir?
Yes, read if you like.
Thank you, sir.
Baxter stood up and looked wildly about the room. He was as certain as he could be of anything that the missing piece of evidence was somewhere within those four walls. There was very little cover in the room, even for so small a fugitive as a shoe. He raised the tablecloth and peered beneath the table.
Are you looking for Mr. Beach, sir? I think he has gone to church.
You had better be careful.
Now, my dear Baxter.
What's in this closet?
That closet, sir?
Yes, this closet.
I could not say, sir. Mr. Beach, to whom the closet belongs, possibly keeps a few odd trifles there. A ball of string, perhaps. Maybe an old pipe or something of that kind. Probably nothing of value or interest.
Open it.
It appears to be locked, sir.
Unlock it.
But where is the key?
Lord Emsworth, I have my reasons for thinking that this man is deliberately keeping the contents of this closet from me. I am convinced that the shoe is in there. Have I your leave to break open the door?
Now, my dear Baxter, please tell me again why you have brought me in here. I can't make head or tail of what you've been saying. Apparently, you accuse this young man of keeping his shoes in a closet. Why should you suspect him of keeping his shoes in a closet? And if he wishes to do so, why on earth should not he keep his shoes in a closet? This is a free country.
Exactly, your lordship. You have touched the spot.
It all has to do with the theft of your scarab, Lord Emsworth. Somebody got into the museum and stole the scarab.
Yes. Oh, yes, so they did. I remember now. You told me. Bad business, that, my dear Baxter. Mr. Peters gave me that scarab. He will be most deucedly annoyed if it's lost. Yes, indeed.
Whoever stole it upset the can of red paint and stepped in it.
Devilish careless of them. Must have made the dickens of a mess. What young people, look where they are walking.
I suspect this man of shielding the criminal by hiding her shoe in the closet.
Oh, it's not his own shoe that this young man keeps in closets.
It is a woman's shoe, Lord Emsworth.
The deuce it is. Then it was a woman who stole the scarab? Is that the way you figure it out? Oh, bless my soul, Baxter. One wonders what women are coming to nowadays. It's all this movement, I suppose. The vote and all that. Huh? I recollect having a chat with the Marquis of Petersville some time ago. He's in the cabinet, and he tells me it is perfectly infernal the way these women carry on. He said sometimes it got to such a pitch with them waving banners and presenting petitions and throwing flour and things at a fellow. It got so bad that if he saw his own mother coming toward him with a hand behind her back, he would run like a rabbit. Told me so himself.
So what I wish to do is break open this closet.
Huh? Why?
To get the shoe.
The shoe. Oh, yes, I remember now. You were telling me.
If your lordship has no objection.
Objection, my dear fellow? None in the world. Why should I have any objection? Let me see, what is it that you wish to do?
This.
The closet, with any skeletons it might contain, was open for all to view. It contained a corkscrew, a box of matches, a paper-covered copy of a book entitled Mary the Beautiful Mill Hand, a box of embrocation, a spool of cotton, 2 pencil stubs, and other useful and entertaining objects. It contained, in fact, almost everything except a paint-splashed shoe, and Baxter gazed at the collection in dumb disappointment.
Are you satisfied now, my dear Baxter? Or is there any more furniture that you would like to break? You know, this furniture breaking is becoming a positive craze with you, my dear fellow. You ought to fight against it. The night before last, I don't know how many tables broken in the hall, and now this closet. You will ruin me. No purse can stand the constant drain. What else does Beach have around here? Well, look, soot. Dear me, I really must tell Beach to have his chimney swept. Seems to need it badly.
Baxter dove forward.
My dear Baxter.
Ah,
Your
yeah.
face. My dear Baxter, your face. It is positively covered with soot. Positively. You must go and wash it. You are quite black. Really, my dear fellow, you present rather an extraordinary appearance. Run off to your room.
Soot! Soot!
Your face is covered, my dear fellow. Quite covered.
It certainly has a faintly sooty aspect, sir.
You will hear more of this. You will.
Damn.
In the name of goodness, Frederick, what do you imagine you are doing?
It was that bally cat of Aunt Anne's that came legging it up the stairs. I think I've broken my leg.
You have certainly broken everything else. Between you and Baxter, I wonder there's a stick of furniture standing in the house.
Can I assist you, sir?
Thanks, old chap. I think my ballet ankle must have gotten twisted. I wish you would give me a hand up to my room.
And Baxter, my dear fellow, you might telephone to Dr. Bird in Market Blandings and ask him to be good enough to drive out. Oh, I am sorry, Freddie, that you should have met with this accident, but everything is so disturbing nowadays. I feel most disturbed.
Later that afternoon, the scene with Freddie and the efficient Baxter was the new topic calling for burning opinions.
All very well to give it out officially that Freddie has fallen downstairs and sprained his ankle, but it's my firm belief that fellow Baxter did precisely as I said he would, ran amok and inflicted dashed frightful injuries on young Freddie. When I got into the house, there was Freddie being helped up the stairs, while Baxter, with his face covered with soot, was looking after him with a sort of evil grin. What had he smeared his face with soot for, I should like to know, if he were perfectly sane? The whole thing is dashed fishy and mysterious, and the sooner I can get Mildred safely out of the place, the better I shall be pleased. The fellow's as mad as a hatter.
My dear Horace.
When Lord Emsworth, citing Mr. Peters in the group of returned churchgoers, drew him aside and broke the news that the valuable scarab, so kindly presented by him to the Castle Museum, had been stolen in the night by some person unknown, he thought the millionaire took it exceedingly well. Though the stolen object no longer belonged to him, Mr. Peters no doubt still continued to take an affectionate interest in it, and might have been excused had he shown annoyance that his gift had been so carelessly guarded. Mr. Peters was, however, thoroughly magnanimous about the matter. He deprecated the notion that the Earl could possibly have prevented this unfortunate occurrence. He quite understood. He was not in the least hurt. Nobody could have foreseen such a calamity. These things happened, and one had to accept them. He himself had once suffered in much the same way, the gem of his collection having been removed almost beneath his eyes in the smoothest possible fashion. Altogether, he relieved Lord Emsworth's mind very much, and when he had finished doing so, he departed swiftly and rang for Ash. When Ash arrived, he bubbled over with enthusiasm. He was lyrical in his praise. He went so far as to slap Ash on the back. It was only when the latter disclaimed all credit for what had occurred that he checked the flow of approbation.
I don't have the scarab.
It wasn't you who got it? Who was it then?
It was Miss Peters' maid. It's a long story, but we were working in partnership. I tried for the thing and failed, and she succeeded.
It was with mixed feelings that Ash listened while Mr. Peters transferred his adjectives of commendation to Joan. He admired Joan's courage. He was relieved that her venture had ended without disaster, and he knew that she deserved whatever anyone could find to say in praise of her enterprise. But at first, though he tried to crush it down, he could not help feeling a certain amount of chagrin that a girl should have succeeded where he, though having the advantage of first chance, had failed. The terms of his partnership with Joan had jarred on him from the beginning. A man may be in sympathy with the modern movement for the emancipation of woman, and yet feel aggrieved when a mere girl proves herself a more efficient thief than himself. Woman is invading man's sphere more successfully every day, but there are still certain fields in which man may consider that he is rightfully entitled to a monopoly. And the purloining of scarabs in the watches of the night is surely one of them. Joan, in Ash's opinion, should have played a meeker and less active part. Well, these unworthy emotions did not last long. Whatever his other shortcomings, Ash possessed a just mind. By the time he found Joan, after Mr. Peters had had his say, and dispatched him below stairs for that purpose, he had purged himself of petty regrets and was prepared to congratulate her wholeheartedly.
I have just left Mr. Peters. All is well. His checkbook lies before him on the table, and he is trying to make his fountain pen work long enough to write a check. But there is just one thing I want to say.
And there is just one thing I want to say, and that is, if you imagine I shall consent to accept a penny of the reward.
Exactly what I was going to say. Of course, I couldn't dream of taking any of it.
I don't understand you. You are certainly going to have it all. I told you when we made our agreement that I should only take my share if you let me do my share of the work. Now that you have broken that agreement, nothing could induce me to take it. I know you meant it kindly, Mr. Morrison, but I simply can't feel grateful. I told you that ours was a business contract and that I wouldn't have it any chivalry. And I thought that after you had given me your promise.
One moment. I can't follow this. What do you mean?
What do I mean? Why, that you went down to the museum last night before me and took the scarab, though you had promised to stay away and give me my chance.
But I didn't do anything of the sort.
But have you got the scarab, Mr. Morrison?
Why, you have got it.
No.
But it's gone.
I know. I went down to the museum last night, as we had arranged, and when I got there, there was no scarab. It had disappeared.
It was gone when you got to the museum?
There wasn't a trace of it. I took it for granted that you had been down before me. I was furious.
But this is ridiculous. Who can have taken it? There was nobody beside ourselves who knew Mr. Peters was offering the reward. What exactly happened last night?
I waited until 1 o'clock. Then I slipped down, got into the museum, struck a match, and looked for the scarab. It wasn't there. I couldn't believe it at first. I struck some more matches, quite a number, but it was no good. The scarab was gone, so I went back to bed and thought hard thoughts about you. It was silly of me. I ought to have known you would not break your word, but there didn't seem any other solution of the thing's disappearance.
Well, somebody must have taken it, and the question is, what are we to do?
It seems to me that we were a little premature in quarreling about how we are to divide that reward. It looks as though there wasn't going to be any reward.
Meantime, I suppose I've got to go back and tell Peters. I expect it will break his heart.
Now Blanding's castle dozed in the calm of an English Sunday afternoon. All was peace. Freddie was in bed, with orders from the doctor to stay there until further notice. Baxter had washed his face. Lord Emsworth had returned to his garden fork. The rest of the house party strolled about the grounds or sat in them, for the day was one of those late spring days that are warm with a premature suggestion of midsummer. Aline Peters was sitting at the open window of her bedroom, which commanded an extensive view of the terrace. Aline was puzzled. She was conscious of a fit of depression for which she could in no way account. She had a feeling that all was not well with the world, which was the more remarkable in that she was usually keenly susceptible to weather conditions and reveled in sunshine like a kitten. Yet here was a day nearly as fine as an American day, and she found no solace in it. She looked down on the terrace. As she looked, the figure of George Emerson appeared, walking swiftly. And at the sight of him, something seemed to tell her that she had found the key to her gloom. There are many kinds of walk. George Emerson's was the walk of mental unrest. His hands were clasped behind his back. His eyes stared straight in front of him from beneath lowering brows, and between his teeth was an unlighted cigar. Plainly, then, all was not well with George Emerson. Until today, she would have resented the suggestion that she was in love with George. She liked to be with him, partly because he was so easy to talk to, and partly because it was exciting to be continually resisting the willpower he made no secret of trying to exercise. But today there was a difference. She had suspected it at luncheon, and she realized it now. As she looked down at him from behind the curtain and marked his air of gloom, she could no longer disguise it from herself. She felt maternal, horribly maternal. George was in trouble and she wanted to comfort him. Freddie, too, was in trouble. But did she want to comfort Freddie? No. On the contrary, she was already regretting her promise, so lightly given before luncheon, to go and sit with him that afternoon. A well-marked feeling of annoyance that he should have been so silly as to tumble downstairs and sprain his ankle was her chief sentiment respecting Freddie.
I have been looking for you.
And here I am. Cheer up, George. Whatever is the matter? I've been sitting in my room looking at you, and you've been simply prowling. What has gone wrong?
Everything.
How do you mean everything?
Exactly what I say. I'm done for. Read this. A cable. I got it this morning, mailed on from my rooms in London. Read it.
I'm trying to. It doesn't seem to make sense.
It makes sense, all right.
I don't see how you can say that. Meredith Elephant Kangaroo?
Office cipher, I was forgetting. Elephant means seriously ill and unable to attend to duty. Meredith is one of the partners in my firm in New York.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you think he's very sick? Are you very fond of Mr. Meredith?
Meredith is a good fellow and I like him, but if it was simply a matter of his being ill, I'm afraid I could manage to bear up under the news. Unfortunately, kangaroo means return without fail by the next boat.
You must return by the next boat. Oh.
I put it stronger than that.
But the next boat, that means by Wednesday.
Wednesday morning from Southampton. I shall have to leave here tomorrow.
But George...
It's bad luck. But I shouldn't wonder if it's not the best thing that really could have happened. It finishes me cleanly, instead of letting me drag on and make both of us miserable. If this cable hadn't come, I suppose I should have gone on bothering you up to the day of your wedding. I should have fancied to the last moment that there was a chance for me, but this ends me with one punch. Even I haven't the nerve to imagine that I can work a miracle in the few hours before the train leaves tomorrow. I must just make the best of it. If we ever meet again, and I don't see why we should, you will be married. My particular brand of mental suggestion doesn't work at long range. I shan't hope to influence you by telepathy. This thing, coming as a shock, coming out of the blue sky without warning. Meredith is the last man in the world you would expect to crack up. He looked as fit as a dray horse the last time I saw him. Somehow seems to have hammered a certain amount of sense into me. Odd it never struck me before, but I suppose I have been about the most bumptious, conceited fool that ever happened.
George.
Why, I should have imagined that there was a sort of irresistible fascination in me, which was bound to make you break off your engagement and upset the whole universe simply to win the wonderful reward of marrying me, is more than I can understand. I suppose it takes a shock to make a fellow see exactly what he really amounts to. I couldn't think of you any more than I do, but if I could, the way you have put up with my mouthing and swaggering and posing as a sort of Superman would make me do it. You have been wonderful. We have known each other so long, and I've told you so often that I love you. We have come to make almost a joke of it, as though we were playing some game. It just happens that that is our way, to laugh at things. But I am going to say it once again, even though it has come to be a sort of catchphrase. I love you. I'm reconciled to the fact that I am done for, out of the running, and that you are going to marry somebody else. But I am not going to stop loving you. It isn't a question of whether I should be happier if I forgot you. I can't do it. It's just an impossibility, and that's all there is to it. Whatever I may be to you, you are part of me, and you always will be part of me. I might just as well try to go on living without breathing as living without loving you. That's all. I don't want to spoil a perfectly good spring afternoon for you by pulling out the tragic stop. I had to say all that, but it's the last time. It shan't occur again. There will be no tragedy when I step into the train tomorrow. Is there any chance that you might come and see me off?
Yes.
You will? That will be splendid. Now I'll go and pack and break it to my host that I must leave him. I expect it will be news to him to learn that I am here. I doubt if he knows me by sight.
Aline remembered her promise to sit with her fiancé. She found the Honorable Freddie draped in purple pajamas and propped up with many pillows, lying in bed, reading Gridley Quayle, Investigator. Aline's entrance occurred at a peculiarly poignant moment in the story and gave him a feeling of having been brought violently to earth from a flight in the clouds. It is not often an author has the good fortune to grip a reader as the author of Gridley Quayle gripped Freddie. One of the results of his absorbed mood was that he greeted Aline with a stare of an even glassier quality than usual. His eyes were by nature a trifle prominent, and to Aline, in the overstrung condition in which her talk with George Emerson had left her, they seemed to bulge at her like a snail's. A man seldom looks his best in bed, and to Aline, seeing him for the first time at this disadvantage, the Honorable Freddie seemed quite repulsive. It was with a feeling of positive panic that she wondered whether he would want her to kiss him. Freddie made no such demand. He was not one of your demonstrative lovers. He contented himself with rolling over in bed and dropping his lower jaw.
Hello, Eileen.
Hello, Freddie.
It was that bally cat of Aunt Anne's that came legging up the stairs, and I took the most frightful toss. I hate cats. Do you hate cats? I knew a fellow in London who couldn't stand cats. I was just reading a corking book. Have you ever read these things? They come out every month and they're corking. The fellow who writes them must be a corker. It beats me how he thinks of these things. They're about a detective chap called Gridley Quayle. Frightfully exciting.
Shall I read to you, Freddie?
Righto. Good scheme. I've got to the top of this page.
7 guns covered him with deadly precision. Did you get as far as that?
Yes, just beyond. It's a bit thick, don't you know? This chappy Quayle has been trapped in a lonely house. Think he was going to see a pal in distress, and instead of the pal there, pop out a whole squad of masked blighters with guns. I don't see how he's going to get out of it myself, but I'll bet he does. He's a corker.
Aline read the words penned by Gridley Quayle's author to her betrothed with as little enthusiasm as Ash had put pen to paper to write them.
What's the matter? Don't stop.
I'm getting hoarse, Freddie.
How would it be? Would you mind if I just took a look at the rest of it myself? We could talk afterward, you know. I shan't be long.
Oh, of course, do read if you want to, but do you really like this sort of thing, Freddie?
Me? Rather. Why don't you?
I of course. I don't know. It just seems a little. I don't know.
Freddie had become absorbed in his story. Aline did not attempt further analysis of her attitude toward Mr. Quayle. She relapsed into silence. It was a silence pregnant with thought. For the first time in their relations, she was trying to visualize to herself exactly what marriage with this young man would mean. Hitherto, it struck her, she had really seen so little of Freddie that she had scarcely had a chance of examining him. In the crowded world outside, he had always seemed a tolerable enough person. Today, somehow, he was different. Everything was different today.
It's all right. He did get out. He had a bomb on him, and he threatened to drop it and blow the place to pieces unless the blighters let him go. So they cheesed it. I knew he had something up his sleeve.
Freddie, do you love me? Freddie, do you love me? Am I a part of you? If you hadn't me, would it be like trying to go on living without breathing?
What? Do I? Oh, yes, rather. I say, one of the blighters has just loosed a rattlesnake in a grizzly quail's bedroom through the transom.
Aline rose from her seat and left the room softly. The Honorable Freddie read on, unheeding. Ash Marson had not fallen far short of the truth in his estimate of the probable effect on Mr. Peters of the information that his precious scarab had once more been removed by alien hands and was now farther from his grasp than ever. A drawback to success in life is that failure, when it does come, acquires an exaggerated importance. Success had made Mr. Peters, in certain aspects of his character, a spoiled child. At the moment when Ash broke the news, he would have parted with half his fortune to recover the scarab. Its recovery had become a point of honor. He saw it as the prize of a contest between his will and that of whatever malignant powers there might be ranged against him in the effort to show him that there were limits to what he could achieve. He felt as he had felt in the old days, when people sneaked up on him in Wall Street and tried to loosen his grip on a railroad or pet stock. He was suffering from that form of paranoia which makes men multimillionaires. Nobody would be foolish enough to become a multimillionaire if it were not for the desire to prove himself irresistible. Mr. Peters obtained a small relief for his feelings by doubling the existing reward, and Ash went off in search of Joan, hoping that this new stimulus, acting on their joint brains, might develop inspiration.
Have any fresh ideas been vouchsafed to you? You may look on me as baffled.
Don't give up. Think again. Try to realize what this means, Mr. Morrison. Between us, we have lost $100,000 in a single night. I can't afford it. It's like losing a legacy. I absolutely refuse to give in without an effort and go back to writing Duke and Earl stories for home gossip.
The prospect of tackling Gridley Quayle again.
Why? I was forgetting that you were a writer of detective stories. You ought to be able to solve this mystery in a moment. Ask yourself, what would Gridley Quayle have done?
I can answer that. Gridley Quayle would have waited helplessly for some coincidence to happen to help him out.
Had he no methods?
He was full of methods, but they never led him anywhere without the coincidence. However, we might try to figure it out. What time did you get to the museum?
1 o'clock.
And you found the scarab gone. What does that suggest to you?
Nothing. What does it suggest to you?
Absolutely nothing. Let us try again. Whoever took the scarab must have had special information that Peters was offering the reward.
Then why hasn't he been to Mr. Peters and claimed it?
True. That would seem to be a flaw in the reasoning. Once again, whoever took it must have been in urgent and immediate need of money.
And how are we to find out who was in urgent and immediate need of money?
Exactly. How indeed?
I should think your Mr. Quayle must have been a great comfort to his clients, wasn't he?
Inductive reasoning, I admit, seems to have fallen down to a certain extent. We must wait for the coincidence. I have a feeling that it will come. I'm very fortunate in the way of coincidences.
Are you?
Was it not a strange coincidence that you should have come into my life at all?
Not very. It was quite likely that we should meet sooner or later, as we lived on different floors of the same house.
It was a coincidence that you should have taken that room.
Why?
Miss Simpson, Mr. Marson, it's true what I said that night. It's a fact. It's true. There ain't a doubt of it now. It's been, and it happened just as I said that night.
What did you say? Which night?
That night at dinner, the first night you two came here. Don't you remember me talking about Freddie and the girl he used to write letters to in London? The girl I said was so like you, Miss Simpson. What was her name again? Joan Valentine. That was it. The girl at the theater that Freddie used to send me with letters to pretty nearly every evening. Well, she's been and done it, same as I told you all that night. She was jolly likely to go and do. She's sticking young Freddie up for his letters, just as he ought to have known she would do if he hadn't been a young fathead. They're all like these girls, every one of them. I took a suit of Freddie's clothes away to brush just now, and happening to glance at the contents of his pockets, I come across a letter. I took a sort of look at it before setting it aside, and it was from a fellow named Jones, and it said that this girl, Valentine, was sticking on to young Freddie's letters that he'd written her and would see him blowed if she parted with them under another 10,000. As I made out, Freddie had already given her 5,000. Where he got it is more than I can understand, but that's what the letter said. This fellow Jones said he'd passed it to her with his own hands, but she wasn't satisfied, and if she didn't get the other 1,000, she was going to bring an action for breach. And now Freddie has given me a note to take to this Jones, who is stopping in Market Blandings.
But that can't be true.
Saw the letter with my own eyes, Miss Simpson.
But
it shows that he was in an immediate and urgent need of money.
You bet it does. It looks to me as though young Freddie had about reached the end of his tether this time. My word, there won't be half a kick up if she does sue him for breach. I'm off to tell Mr. Beach and the rest. They'll jump out of their skins. Oh, Lord, I was forgetting this note. He told me to take it at once.
I'll take it for you. I'm not doing anything.
Oh, you're a good fellow, Marston. I'll do as much for you another time. I couldn't hardly bear not to tell a bit of news like this right away. I should burst or something.
I simply can't understand it. My head is going round.
Can't understand it? Why, it's perfectly clear. This is the coincidence for which, in the capacity of Gridley Quayle, I was waiting. I can now resume inductive reasoning. Weighing the evidence, what do we find? That young sweep Freddie is the man. He has the scarab.
But it's all such a muddle. I'm not holding his letters.
For Jones's purposes, you are. Let's get this Jones element in the affair straightened out. What do you know of him?
He was an enormously fat man who came to see me one night and said he had been sent to get back some letters. I told him I had destroyed them ages ago, and he went away.
Well, that part of it is clear then. He is working a simple but ingenious game on Freddie. I wouldn't succeed with everybody, I suppose, but from what I have seen and heard of him, Freddie isn't strong on intellect. He seems to have accepted the story without a murmur. What does he do? He has to raise £10,000 immediately, and the raising of the first 5,000 has exhausted his credit. He gets the idea of stealing the scarab.
But why? Why should he have thought of the scarab at all? This is what I can't understand. He couldn't have meant it to give it to Mr. Peters and claim the reward. He couldn't have known that Mr. Peters was offering a reward. He couldn't have known that Lord Emsworth had not got the scarab quite properly. He couldn't have known. He couldn't have known anything.
There's something in that, but I have it. Jones must have known about the scarab and told him.
But how could he have known?
Yes, there's something in that too. How could Jones have known?
He couldn't. He had gone by the time Aline came that night.
I don't quite understand. Which night?
It was the night of the day I first met you. I was wondering for a moment whether he could by any chance have overheard Aline telling me about the scarab and the reward Mr. Peters was offering for it.
Overheard? That word is like a bugle blast to me. 9 out of 10 Gridley Quayle triumphs were due to his having overheard something. I think we are now on the right track.
I don't. How could he have overheard us? The door was closed and he was in the street by that time.
How do you know he was in the street? Did you see him out?
No, but he went.
He might have waited on the stairs. You remember how dark they are at number 7, and listened?
Why?
Why? Why, what a beast of a word that is. The detective's bugbear. I thought I had it until you said, Great Scott, I'll tell you why. I see it all. I have him with the goods. His object in coming to see you about the letters was because Freddie wanted them back owing to his approaching marriage with Miss Peters, wasn't it?
Yes.
You tell him you have destroyed the letters. He goes off. Am I right?
Yes.
Before he is out of the house, Miss Peters is giving her name at the front door. Put yourself in Jones's place. What does he think? He is suspicious. He thinks there is some game on. He skips upstairs again, waits until Miss Peters has gone into your room, then stands outside and listens. How about that?
I do believe you're right. He might quite easily have done that.
He did do exactly that. I know it as though I had been there. In fact, it is highly probable I was there. You say all this happened on the night we first met. I remember coming downstairs that night. I was going out to see a show and hearing voices in your room. I remember it distinctly. In all probability, I nearly ran into Jones.
It does all seem to fit in, doesn't it?
It's a clear case. There isn't a flaw in it. The only question is, can I, on the evidence, go to young Freddie and choke the scarab out of him? On the whole, I think I'd better take this note to Jones, as I promised Judson, and see whether I can't work something through him. Yes, that's the best plan. I'll be starting at once.
Perhaps the greatest hardship in being an invalid is the fact that people come and see you and keep your spirits up. The Honorable Freddie Threepwood suffered extremely from this. He was not a gregarious person by nature, and it fatigued his limited brain powers to have to find conversation for his numerous visitors. All he wanted was to be left alone to read the adventures of Gridley Quayle, and when tired of doing that, to lie on his back and look at the ceiling and think of nothing. It is your dynamic person, your energetic world's worker, who chafes at being laid up with a sprained ankle. The Honorable Freddie enjoyed it. From boyhood up, he had loved lying in bed, and now that fate had allowed him to do this without incurring rebuke, he objected to having his reveries broken up by officious relations. As he lay in bed reading on Monday morning, the only flaw in his enjoyment of this unaccustomed solitude was the thought that presently the door was bound to open and some kind of inquirer insinuate himself into the room. His apprehensions proved well-founded. Scarcely had he got well into the details of an ingenious plot on the part of a secret society to eliminate Gridley Quayle by bribing his cook, a bad lot, to sprinkle chopped up horsehair in his chicken fricassee, when the doorknob turned and Ash Marson came in. Freddie's sensation on perceiving him was one of relief. He had been half afraid it was the bishop. He recognized Ash as the valet chappie who had helped him to bed on the occasion of his accident. It might be that he had come in a respectful way to make inquiries, but he was not likely to stop long. He nodded and went on reading, and then, glancing up, he perceived Ash standing beside the bed, fixing him with a piercing stare.
What do you want? What are you staring at me like that for?
I will tell you. If you can spare me a few moments of your valuable time, I will put the facts before you. Yes, press that bell if you wish, and I will put them before witnesses. Lord Emsworth will no doubt be pleased to learn that a son, whom he trusted, is a thief.
What? What do you mean?
I will tell you what I mean. On Saturday night, a valuable scarab was stolen from Lord Emsworth's private museum. The case was put into my hands.
Wait, God, are you a detective?
The case was placed in my hands. I investigated it. I discovered that you were in urgent and immediate need of money.
How on earth did you do that?
I further discovered that you were in communication with an individual named Jones.
Good Lord. How?
Yesterday, I had a talk with this man Jones, who is staying in Market Blandings. Why is he staying in Market Blandings? Because he had a reason for keeping in touch with you, because you were about to transfer to his care something you could get possession of, but which only he could dispose of. The scarab. I interviewed this man Jones. I said to him, I am in the Honorable Frederick Threepwood's confidence. I know everything. Have you any instructions for me? He replied, What do you know? And then I answered, I know that the Honorable Frederick Threepwood has something he wishes to hand to you, but which he has been unable to hand to you owing to having had an accident and being confined to his room. He then told me to tell you to let him have the scarab by messenger.
I say, I think it's totally marvelous the way you've deduced everything and so on.
Well?
But I believe you would chuck it if you heard my side of the case.
I know your side of the case. You think you're being blackmailed by a Miss Valentine for some letters you once wrote her? You are not. Miss Valentine has destroyed the letters. She told the man Jones when he went to see her in London. He kept your £5,000 and is trying to get another 10,000 out of you under false pretenses.
What? You can't be right.
I am always right.
You must be mistaken.
I am never mistaken.
But how do you know?
I have my sources of information.
She isn't going to sue me for breach of promise.
She never had any intention of doing so.
Good egg. That is a bit of all right. I say, you don't mean to say that the Rotter Jones was such a rotter as to do a rotten thing like that.
I do.
I trusted that man. I jolly well trusted him absolutely.
I know. There's one born every minute.
But what I mean to say is, I thought he was a good chap.
My short acquaintance with Mr. Jones leads me to think that he probably is, to himself.
I won't have anything more to do with him.
I shouldn't.
Dash it. I'll tell you what I'll do. The very next time I meet the blighter, I'll cut him dead, I will. The rotter. $5,000 he's had me off for nothing. And if it hadn't been for you, he'd have another 10,000. I'm beginning to think that my old governor wasn't so wrong when he used to curse me for going around with Jones and the rest of the crowd. He knew a bit. By God. Well, I'm through with them. If the governor ever lets me go to London again, I won't have anything to do with them. I'll jolly well cut the whole bunch. And to think that if it hadn't been for you...
Never mind that. Give me the scarab. Where is it?
What are you going to do with it?
Restore it to its rightful owner?
Are you going to give me away to the governor?
I am not.
It strikes me. You're a dash good sort. You seem to me to have the making of an absolute topper. It's under the mattress. I had it on me when I fell downstairs, and I had to shove it in there. You know, I've always wanted to meet a detective. What beats me is how you chappies find our things.
We have our methods.
I believe you. You're a blooming marvel. What first put you on my track?
Oh, that would be too long to explain. Of course, I had to do some tense inductive reasoning, but I cannot trace every link in the chain for you. It would be tedious.
That's me.
Some other time.
I say, I wonder whether you've ever read any of these things, these Grinley Quail stories. I know them by heart. Do you read these things?
I should say not. I write them.
You write them? You don't mean write them?
Yes.
Great Scott!
He would have gone on, doubtless, to say more, but at this moment voices made themselves heard outside the door. There was a movement of feet. The door opened, and a small procession entered. It was headed by the Earl of Emsworth. Following him came Mr. Peters, and in the wake of the millionaire were Colonel Horace Mant and the efficient Baxter. They filed into the room and stood by the bedside. Ash seized the opportunity to slip out.
Frederick, Freddie, my boy. Freddie, my dear boy, I fear we have a painful task to perform.
I don't know what you mean.
Of course you don't, dash it. We're coming to that. And I should like to begin by saying that, though in a sense it was my fault, I failed to see how I could have acted.
Horace!
Oh, very well. I was only trying to explain.
Freddie, my boy, we have a somewhat unpleasant, a somewhat disturbing. We are compelled to break it to you. We are all most pained and astounded, and
Miss Peters has eloped with your friend Emerson.
Exactly, Baxter. Precisely. You have put the thing in a nutshell. Really, my dear fellow, you are invaluable.
What?
It is quite true, Freddie, my dear boy. She went to London with him on the 1050.
And if I had not been forcibly restrained, I could have prevented it.
I'm afraid that is true, Freddie. It was a most unfortunate misunderstanding. I'll tell you how it happened. I chanced to be at the station bookstall when the train came in. Mr. Baxter was also in the station. The train pulled up, and this young fellow Emerson got in, said goodbye to us, don't you know, and got in. Just as the train was about to start, Miss Peters exclaiming, "George, dear, I'm going with you. Dash it," or some such speech, proceeded to go hell for leather to the door of young Emerson's compartment, on which
I made a spring to try and catch her. Apart from any other consideration, the train was already moving, and Miss Peters ran considerably risk of injury. I had hardly moved when I felt a violent jerk at my ankle and fell to the ground. After I had recovered from the shock, which was not immediately, I found...
The fact is, Freddie, my boy, I acted under a misapprehension. Nobody can be sorrier for the mistake than I, but recent events in this house had left me with the impression that Mr. Baxter here was not quite responsible for his actions. Overwork or something, I imagined. I have seen it happen so often in India, don't you know, where fellows run amok and kick up the deuce's own delight. I'm bound to admit that I've been watching Mr. Baxter rather closely lately, in the expectation that something of this very kind might happen. Of course, I now realize my mistake, and I have apologized. Apologized humbly. Dash it, but at the moment I was firmly under the impression that our friend here had had an attack of some kind and was about to inflict injuries on Miss Peters. If I've seen it happen once in India, I've seen it happen a dozen times. I recollect in the hot weather of the year 99, or was it 93? I think 93. One of my native bearers, however, I sprang forward and caught the crook of my walking stick on Mr. Baxter's ankle, and I brought him down. And by the time explanations were made, it was too late. The train had gone with Miss Peters in it.
And a telegram has just arrived to say they are being married this afternoon at a registrar's. Oh, the whole occurrence is most disturbing.
Like a man, my boy.
You mean to say Aileen has bolted with Emerson?
Yes.
Well, I'm blowed. Fancy that.
And after that exchange of news, Mr. Peters walked heavily into his room. Ash Marsden was waiting for him there.
Pack!
Pack?
Pack! We're getting out of here by the afternoon train.
Has anything happened?
My daughter has eloped with Emerson.
What?
Don't stand there saying what? Pack!
Where shall I put this?
You got it!
I got it.
Where was it? Who took it? How did you choke it out of them? How did you find it? Who had it?
I don't know whether I ought to say. I don't want to start anything. You won't tell anyone.
Tell anyone? What do you take me for? Do you think I'm going to go about advertising this? If I can sneak out without that fellow Baxter jumping on my back, I shall be satisfied. You can take it from me that there won't be any sensational exposures if I can help it. Who had it?
Young Threepwood.
Threepwood? Why did he want it?
He needed money and he was going to raise it on...
And I have been kicking because Aline can't marry him and has gone off with a regular fellow like young Emerson. He's a good boy, young Emerson. I knew his folks. He'll make a name for himself one of these days. He's got get-up in him. And I have been waiting to shoot him because he's taken Aline away from that goggle-eyed chump up in bed there. Why, if she had married Threepwood, I should have had grandchildren who would have sneaked my watch while I was dancing them on my knee. There is a taint of some sort in the whole family. Father sneaks my Cheops and Sonny sneaks it from father. What a gang. And the best blood in England. If that's England's idea of good blood, give me Hoboken. This settles it. I was a chump ever to come to a country like this. Property isn't safe here. I'm going back to America on the next boat. Where's my checkbook? I'm going to write you that check right away. You've earned it. Listen, young man, I don't know what your ideas are, but if you are unchained to this country, I'll make it worth your while to stay on with me. They say no one's indispensable, but you come mighty near it. If I had you at my elbow for a few years, I'd get right back into shape. I'm feeling better now than I have felt in years, and you've only just started in on me. How about it? You can call yourself what you like, secretary or trainer or whatever suits you best. What you will be is the fellow who makes me take exercise and stop smoking cigars and generally looks after me. How do you feel about it?
Let me think it over.
Well, think quick.
Joan was nowhere to be seen. In none of the spots where she might have been expected to be at such a time was she to be found. Ash had almost given up the search when, going to the back door and looking out as a last chance, he perceived her walking slowly on the gravel drive.
What is it? What is the matter?
Gloom, despondency, Mr. Marston, a sort of flat feeling. Don't you hate things happening?
I don't quite understand.
Well, this affair of Aline, for instance. It's so big it makes one feel as though the whole world had altered. I should like nothing to happen ever, and life just to jog peacefully along. That's not the gospel I preached to you in Arundel Street, is it? I thought I was an advanced apostle of action, but I seem to have changed. I'm afraid I shall never be able to make clear what I do mean. I only know I feel as though I have suddenly grown old. These things are such milestones. Already I am beginning to look on the time before Aline behaved so sensationally as terribly remote. Tomorrow it will be worse, and the day after that worse still. I can see that you don't in the least understand what I mean.
Yes, I do. Or I think I do. What it comes to in a few words is that somebody you were fond of has gone out of your life. Is that it?
Yes, at least that is partly it. I didn't really know Aline particularly well beyond having been at school with her, but you're right. It's not so much what has happened as what it represents that matters. This elopement has marked the end of a phase in my life. I think I have it now. My life has been such a series of jerks. I dash along, then something happens which stops that bit of my life with a jerk. And then I have to start over again. A new bit. I think I'm getting tired of jerks. I want something stodgy and continuous. I'm like one of the old bus horses that could go on forever if people got off without making them stop. It's the having to get the bus moving again that wears one out. This little section of my life since we came here is over, and it is finished for good. I've got to start the bus going again on a new road and with a new set of passengers. I wonder whether the old horses used to be sorry when they dropped one lot of passengers and took on a lot of strangers. Do you ever get moods when life seems absolutely meaningless? It's like a badly constructed story with all sorts of characters moving in and out who have nothing to do with the plot. And when somebody comes along that you think really has something to do with the plot, he suddenly drops out. After a while, you begin to wonder what the story is about, and you feel like it's about nothing, just a jumble.
There is one thing that knits it together.
What is that?
The love interest. Joan, will you marry me?
I wonder. You think that is the solution?
Yes.
How can you tell? We scarcely know each other. I shan't always be in this mood. I may get restless again. I may find it is the jerks that I really like.
You won't.
You're very confident.
I am absolutely confident.
She travels fastest who travels alone.
What is the good of traveling fast if you're just going around in a circle? I know how you feel. I felt the same myself. You're an individualist. You think there is something tremendous just around the corner and that you can get it if you try hard enough. There isn't. Or if there is, it isn't worth getting. Life is nothing but a mutual aid association. I'm going to help old Peters. You're going to help me. I am going to help you.
Help me do what?
Make life coherent instead of a jumble.
Mr. Marson.
Don't call me Mr. Marson.
Ash, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know me. I've been knocking about the world for 5 years, and I'm hard right through. Should make you wretched.
You are not in the least hard, and you know it. Listen to me, Joan. Where's your sense of fairness? You crash into my life, turn it upside down, dig me out of my quiet groove, revolutionize my whole experience, and now you propose to drop me and pay no further attention to me? Is it fair?
But I don't. We shall always be the best of friends.
We shall. But we shall get married first.
You are determined.
I am.
How perfectly splendid. I was terrified lest I might have made you change your mind. I had to say all I did to preserve my self-respect after proposing to you. Yes, I did. How strange is it that men never seem to understand a woman, however plainly she talks? You don't think I was really worrying because I had lost the lean, do you? I thought I was going to lose you, and it made me miserable. You couldn't expect me to say it in so many words, but I was hoping you guessed. I practically said it. Ash, what are you doing?
I'm kissing you.
But you mustn't. Oh, there's a scullery maid or somebody looking through the kitchen window. She'll see us.
Scullery maids have few pleasures. Theirs is a dull life. Let her see us.
And we return to the heart of Blanding's castle.
I fear, Freddie, my dear boy, this has been a great shock to you.
What? Yes, rather. Just of a shock, Governor.
I've been thinking it over, my boy, and perhaps I have been a little hard on you. When your ankle is better, I have decided to renew your allowance, and you may return to London, as you do not seem to be happy in the country. Though how any reasonable being can prefer this.
My word, not really.
Yes, my boy.
I say, Governor, you really are a topper. You really are, you know. I know just how you feel about the country and the jolly old birds and trees, but somehow it's never quite hit me the same way. It's the way I'm built, I suppose. I like asphalt streets and crowds and dodging taxis and meeting chappies at the club. And then there's something about having an allowance. I don't know. Sort of makes you chuck your chest out and feel you're someone. I don't know how to thank you, Governor. You're an absolute sportsman. This is the most priceless bit of work you've ever done. I don't know when I felt so braced. I really, Governor, I'm most awfully grateful.
Exactly. Precisely. But Freddie, my boy, there is just one thing more. Do you think that with an effort, for my sake, you could endeavor this time not to make a damn fool of yourself?
Governor, I'll have a jolly good stab at it.
Thank you for listening to Upstart Arts Something Fresh. Let me introduce you to the people who brought it to you. Michelle Denise Norton, director and adapter. Gail Eubank, technical director. Ashar Otto, stage manager. Kitty Gaogan, graphic designer, responsible for all of our logos. Nicholas J. Ryan, sound designer. And the cast. Joan Concilio as Adams, Colonel Mant, Jensen, and a few servants. Jonathan Davis as the Honorable Frederick Threepwood. Gail Eubank as R. Jones, expert maid. Eliana Garcia as Joan Valentine. Kitty Gaogan as George Emerson. Priscilla McFerrin as Beach, Dr. Mrs. Bell, and the Bishop. Joshua R. Reed as Ash Marsden. Paula Rainier as Rupert Baxter. Stephanie Schwartz, Lord Emsworth. Julie Spector, Aileen Peters. Eric Subin, J. Preston Peters. And Lorna Veraldi, the narrator. Thank you for listening to Upstart Arts. Please find us on social media, leave a comment, or give us a rating if you can, and stay tuned to see what we're up to next. We appreciate your support.